Hello, welcome to Poppy's Creations. I'm Jan. This is your first time here. Welcome and thank you very much for finding me. I just want to explain, I basically try to upcycle, recycle anything that maybe donated to me, given to me, things that I already have, and all of these I try to give another or different life to. A couple of days ago, Duncan spotted in one of the publicity magazines that we get come through the door that one of our favourite shops, Action, was selling some birdhouses. They're just basic plain wood, and he said, oh, we could get a couple of them for the new part of the garden, and maybe you could paint them, make them look nice for that, and maybe a bug house too, or a bug hotel as sometimes they're called. So I went yesterday and there weren't any birdhouses, unfortunately, so I don't know if they've sold out or whether they're just not actually available in the shop yet. But I did get the bug hotel. It's, as you see, it's plain. They did have some that were painted, but I wanted to give it sort of a bit of colour myself. Right, what else am I going to paint? First of all, I've got this little character. I think these are one of those things you love or you hate. I don't understand how you can hate them, but some people might find them old lady-ish. Well, I'm not young, am I? But I just think they add a little bit of colour around the garden, and also when we've got guests down and they've got children, they love to see them. And sometimes I do place them in the guests' part of the garden, and just to give the children something to look at, really. So I can't even remember whether I found this at a boot fair, Vigrenier, or whether I bought it somewhere else. I've no recollection, but I've had him a long time. You can see he's very, very faded. So I'm going to brighten him up again. Gnomes have to be bright, don't they? They do have some really classic gnomes in this shop of ours, but I have to resist buying. They have one that's actually carrying an Action shopping bag. And it's classic. I mean, I know it's advertising for them, but it is so funny because everybody that lives here, you talk about Action and they just love it, because you can't go into Action and come out without buying something. And if you do, I hold my hands up to you. Next, I've got these two characters Natalie and Leon actually gave us. They know and had seen that we like to collect things to put in the garden, and we've got several. If you've watched Poppy's France, you'll see that in the garden we've got a few different ornaments around, and they're all very different as well. I mean, obviously a lot of them do need repainting. I have no idea where they came from, but there's something very naive about them, and obviously not a very skilled person has done them, but there's just something endearing about them. And I was really chuffed actually when she gave them to us. I mean, there's just this man here. I'm assuming he was a farmer or something. He's quite dirty looking. I've given him a bit of a wash, but he still looks dull, so he definitely needs some paint, doesn't he? So yeah, so that's, and he's got a little detail, his hair on the back and everything. So that I'm going to paint him, and we're going to say this is his wife. She has got very little hair, bless her, but she's still got some colour on her. So I'm going to repaint in much the same colours, just to make her stand out a little bit more in the garden again. So I should give them a name, really, shouldn't I? I do like my things sometimes to have a name. So so far that's the bug hotel, the gnome and the people, and then I've got these two, which Duncan really doesn't like. And I think the reason he doesn't like them is because they're so white. So what I'm going to do is give these a bit of colour. Hopefully they'll blend in amongst the plants a little bit more. And again, I sometimes put these in the guest's garden. And it's nice to hear that the children have been wandering around looking for them and trying to discover what else is in the garden. I bought these yesterday. I've got a lot of acrylic paints in my art box, but because I don't paint as often as I probably should, a lot of the paints have dried up. So I spotted these in the publicity when it came through, and they're so reasonable. I had to have, and this set of paints, I think it was €8, and you've got 20 tubes there, and they're all like 60mm, 59mm size, so they're quite good, and they've got some different colours. They're not just primary colours, so it'd be nice to try and brighten these things up with those. So I'm going to now go through and decide which paints to use, and well, then I'll get painting. Right, I'm going to start with my gnome. Now, do I start at the top or the bottom? I think at the bottom, because I'm probably going to need to hold his head at some point, so it needs to be the last bit. See, I've got my bit of paper down so I don't get in too much of a mess on my mat, although it is washable. Okay, Mr. Gnome, let's get you coloured, painted. It's just taken me ages. I didn't think about it until I come to squeeze the paint out. It wasn't coming out. There's obviously a seal on the top of the paint so it doesn't leak out, but there was obviously also a seal on the inside of the lid, so it took me a while to take all those out. There's something satisfying about this. I might need another coat, it's not very thick. I've got a friend who's got a pottery barn, basically. She prepares pottery for painting and holds classes, and I've got quite a few things. We've got quite a few things in the house, and I've made a sign for the Gite garden when I was there. I've asked if I could come at some point and film to show you guys, and once the weather gets warmer, that's what I'm going to do. So it's all quite good fun. It's the green, or the light green anyway. It's always really hard to judge how much paint you want when you do things like this. You end up with too much or too little. I've no idea what this bit is, but it's going to be green. So I don't think these paints are particularly thick. Maybe that was obviously why they were a little bit cheaper, but for what I'm doing, that's fine. There we go, Mr. Gnome. Right, now I'm going to get a slightly smaller brush. Black, I think, for your shoes. Last year I'd painted some of the garden decorations in the garden. It was lovely weather that day, and of course being outside it dried very quickly. This it shouldn't dry too badly, because I think this what this is made of, which I can't think of the top of my head, absorbs the paint and dries out quite quick. If I was you and I was sitting watching someone do this, I'd find it quite satisfying. I can't make out what that is between his legs, but I'm going to assume it's more long grass. I was talking about the gnomes that they have in action, and they're quite good novelty ones. I've one that's a gnome taking a selfie, which is quite amusing. Right, now we go for the broom. So we want a brown. As usual, I'm probably going to have to speed this up. I think it's going to take quite a while to do all these items, so I'm going to edit it quite well and just give you the idea of what I'm doing. Don't know if any of you have had the same problem, but in our, well, in France basically, coming up from the south, we've had very strange weather. It's a storm that was in the desert and the Sahara, and so we've had very fine particles of sand settling on everything here. The skies have been orangey. Everybody's cars are covered in sand. I was going to go and take my car to wash it the other day. I must admit it doesn't get washed as often as it should, but it did put me off because I thought I knew the storm wasn't finished just yet, so I've left it, but I must try and do it in a few days. It's funny, when I got that car, I was going to really get a look after it. I was so proud of it. I mean, I don't trash it. It doesn't get washed as often as it probably should. Duncan's always having to remind me. Yeah, I think now, because as well I do so much running rubbish to the tip, to the déchetterie, it just puts you off. I think, oh, it's going to get filthy again in 5 minutes. Any of you that watch Foppy's France, you will very often see I've got stuff on my back seat. I forget it's there, but when I'm looking at the video, I think they must think, what on earth is she carrying there? But it's, yeah, I've generally got a lot of Duncan's work rubbish in the back of my car, and obviously some from the house as well. There, how's it looking? Are you happy with your broom, Mr. Gnome? It obviously isn't going to be perfect. It's only going in the garden, but even so. Now I know what I'm like, and it'll bug me, and I'll end up bringing it in again if I don't do it at some level or standard. This is quite good fun. I bet if I look at your friends in the garden, they probably need painting as well, won't they? Right. Okay. Right. Actually, I need a bit more red. I'm just going to do that ladybird to get him so he dries out. There used to be a thing about counting the dots on ladybirds. Was it to see how many children they had or something like that? If that's the case, you've got 4. For anybody just tuning in, yes, I am sitting here talking to a gnome as well as you. So I cannot remember where I got this from. I think the 2 that I've got in the garden at the minute, I think they, or in the shed ready to go in the garden, I think they were from one of our supermarkets. But this one I'm not sure. So obviously intended on painting them as and when I needed to. I must have got this one separately because up there don't seem to be ready for painting yet, or needing painting. Smaller brush. Just to get right along the edges. Decide what colour to do his shirt next. Yeah, we're getting there. It's another bit of green I've missed at the bottom. Keep missing that. I think you're going to need another coat maybe on those trousers. So right now, I think, yeah, all the rest of it's still drying, so we're going to have to go to, I think, to your shirt next. I think we're going to have a yellow shirt. Well, is it yellow? Oh, it says sandy brown. Let's have a look at the colour. Yeah, I think that'd be alright. I'd call it brown. Would you? In fact, I really like that colour. I'd call that more mustard. Dropped my friend Sharon off yesterday at the train station. She's gone to England to visit her daughter in Manchester. It used to be, when I used to be able to go and visit my family, my children and grandchildren, I used to be able to get a plane. I used to be able to fly from Caen, which is on the right on the north coast, and it used to fly into Southend Airport, and it's only a small plane, and it used to be so reasonable, and it was so easy for me because it goes into Southend, or used to go into Southend Airport, and right outside the airport there was a train station. So if by any chance I hadn't got a lift from the station, I'd be able to get a train. And I used to have to get the train into London and back out again. But because of COVID, unfortunately, that company went bust. Somebody, I think there was talk of Ryanair taking over, but I haven't heard anything yet. But for us now to visit anybody in the south, it's very expensive, quite difficult. It's such a shame because I loved it because it only took an hour to get there, and I didn't have a lot of luggage, so I didn't have to pay any extra for luggage. Yeah. So now I've got to consider all other options. I might have to do what Sharon's done and get the train into Nantes. Even when if I'm with Duncan, we're considering it because the cost of fuel, as well as the prices of the flights, and not just the flights but the ferries and the ferries and other flights, and even the Eurotunnel have all increased so much. It's just getting ridiculous. I know they want to recoup some money that they lost during COVID, but it's just really makes it hard. If anything, you think they're going to end up losing out because people won't be able to afford to do it, and then they're not going to book a trip, are they? Aren't you smart? So I suppose really your beard's got to be white, isn't it? Not sure it's going to show up very well actually. It's already white. I'm just basically putting paint on that's going to make it look a bit cleaner. I hope you've been over to Foppy's France and watched any of my videos, but the recent ones in Fougères. We've done one at the chateau, and another one just about to come up is of the Fougères town, and the one that went up this week is one of where I had to go for my oncology appointment, and just so everybody could see where I have to go and how I got on with the oncology doctor. Yeah, look at him. Right, so that might have to come back and just give some of it another coat. See how I feel. But at the moment, we're nearly there. Got to do his skin, I've got to do his hair. Oh, I've got to do his eyebrows. Considering what this is, I think I'm being way too fussy, but that's me. That's better. There we go. Mr. Gnome, apart from a couple of details, he's done. So I've put him to one side to dry, but I can get hold of him without smudging. There we go. Need a bit of marking on his, the black on his eyes marked. He doesn't care, I know. Right, now let's, what should we do about these? Right, looks like he's wearing clogs, doesn't it? I think. To get some clean water as well, I think. It's my little contraption I've made. It's just a bottle, I'm turning it upside down. It's a funnel so that when I need to change, because I'm up here without a sink, it saves me going up and down the stairs. I can just put it in there. So far with this one, I've given him some red boots and I've just put a bit of pink, not that it looks very pink on here, pink on his hands and face. So now I've got a little bit of red paint on there, but that will get covered up. I don't really see this very well either. As I say, it's such a dark wood. Again, and like with the gnome, I'm not quite sure what's between his legs here. But he's holding a stick at the front, so I think I'm just going to leave that bit in the middle. I suppose it's like the upcycling bit that I like to do. This is, you know, saving things, isn't it, and giving them another life, and that's what I feel I'm doing with this now. The trouble is now I've made his trousers brown. What colour do I do the stick? It'll have to be, I don't know, light colour like cane, I suppose. I'm going to do that black in the middle because it'll just look like shadow. I think that is probably his shirt. So white for this bit here, I think is probably his collar. So we're going to go with white for that. The colours are obviously not going to come out very bright on this, but it doesn't matter. It'll be protected and it'll be better than it was before, I think. So I'd really love to know who made this. I'd love to know the story behind things. I must remember to ask Natalie. Just trying to keep to the grain so that the paint goes in the grain better. There, can you see the change in colours? It's a bit more cheerful, isn't it? Ish. Right, now, I know he's a little bit wet, but I've got no choice but to lay him down. He won't be there for long. I've got to decide on the stick and the hat. Hair. Right, what colour hair? I think I'm going to go with black. Oh, I'm going to have a black hat. In a quandary now. I do for hair. And a hat. Please say, if I'd managed to carve this out of wood, I'd be quite proud of it. It's not an easy thing to do, is it? Obviously it depends if you've got the right tools. The fact that he's quite flat at the back makes me think he was meant to be mounted on a wall or something. Right. I think that's about it for you, mister. What do you think? Slightly better. Part of her, this foot's come away, bless her. I wonder why she got painted originally and the man didn't. Right, next the top. It's even given her a bit of a cleavage. A bit pinker. We'll dry paler anyway. Right, what do I do with my cupids? Okay, obviously paused you there for a little while. I've done, they look quite pink, quite bright pink, but I was thinking when it's in the garden, the sun is probably going to bleach it, so better to start off a darker pink than they should be. But I think the wings are going to have to be white. Should be green or, yeah, maybe a green ball. I think it's a probably, oh, I don't know, to be honest, it could be anything, couldn't it? But I'm unsure. But I think being as it's going to sit in the flower bed, green would probably look better. one. Looks like it's sitting on an apple now. They're all going to need a little touching up later on. The name is more or less finished. Give the bug house a little bit of colour. Just move them over there. It's making me think that maybe I should bring the other bug hotels that we've got in the garden in and to give them at least a bit of varnish or something to protect them. We didn't think of it at the time. Okay, it's the next day now. I know that will mean absolutely nothing to you because you haven't gone anywhere, but I decided, after my phone ran out of memory and then the battery died, I thought, right, okay, someone's trying to tell me to stop now, so I've stopped. My phone is now charged up and it's given the paint time to dry. Show you here the lady. I don't think there's much more I can do to her, to be honest. And the paints seem to be showing up more now that they've dried. And this is the man. I'm quite pleased with the gnome. He came out okay. So he's fine, he's ready to go in the garden. Nothing more to be done on him. I think the bug house can stay as it is. I just did a few like red dots on top as if they were flowers, just to give it all a bit of colour. All I need to do is just put a bit of detail on the faces of these angels, and maybe a little bit detail on the hair. As I said before, I don't know why I'm worrying about it when you think what they're for, but it's just me. That's just how I am. So I'm just going to add a tiny bit of detail to these and then I'll be done. Actually, I'm going to look in my art box to see what I've got in there. I don't usually use them with acrylics though. Okay, I'm just going to mark these with this pen. Okay, that's all I'm going to do on those because I think I've gone a bit too obsessed with trying to get detail right, when after all it's a garden ornament, and in the next lot bad weather it might all just wash off. I don't know, but I've tried. So all I'm going to do now is just the last little bits I've done, just let that dry. I'm going to varnish them all with a clear varnish in the hope it'll make them last for a little while, at least this year. And then you'll see in the thumbnail when they're actually finished. Okay then, so I'll see you next time. It was a bit of a different one this time, but hopefully it made a change for you. I shall see you in the next video. Bye.